amazing, and in that she'd succeeded. Her form-fitting gown fitted a form that still drew wolf whistles from construction crews, at least from the ones high up on the girders. Her jawline was tight, her skin smooth, her hair a soft shade of ash blonde. "As some of you folks know," Charlie was saying, "I've taken 2 bullets in my life. One in Da Nang and the second time in Beirut. Barely winged me either time. But there was one time I took a direct hit to the heart. It wasn't a bullet, though. It was an arrow. A Cupid's arrow back in the 8th grade, when I first laid eyes on a little gal named Katie Weller." Laughter came from the guests, amid an audible groan from Kate. "So that's my confession," Charlie said. "I fell in love with Katie the minute I saw her. Not that I ever stood a chance. I mean, come on, she was honor roll and I was auto shop. She was country club and I was junior ROTC. Kate shook her head in denial, but she was smiling. "She was so far out of my league, I didn't even have the guts to talk to her. She never would have known I existed, if not for one Saturday in November." He looked down at Kate, and his face softened with the memory. "I was out on the football field. She was up in the stadium, and I kept her in my sights between every play, during every huddle. Then, I don't know what happened, but she fell headfirst down those concrete stairs." "It was the heat," she said, with enough firmness that no one thought to wonder about the November temperatures in Massachusetts. "I stopped dead in my tracks there on the 20-yard line and watched her tumble. It was like in slow motion. A whole flight of stairs, and at the bottom she landed on her head with a crack I swear I heard out on the field." An ooh rippled through the crowd. "I was a running back, and that's what I did. I ran back to the sidelines and around the bench and vaulted over the rail into the stadium. I picked her up and ran like I'd never run in my life. The hospital was 5 miles away, and I was halfway there when the ambulance caught up with me. They peeled her out of my arms and loaded her in, and left me standing there on the sidewalk in my shoulder pads and helmet wondering what the hell just happened." There was little suspense to the tale. Kate had quite obviously survived, but the guests were listening raptly. They were charmed. "What happened?" Charlie went on. "Well, we lost the game and I got kicked off the team, but I didn't care about that. All I could think about was Katie. They said it was only a mild concussion, but I was worried sick. The next morning, I screwed up my courage and went to see her in the hospital, clutching a ragged bunch of daisies. And there she was, sitting up in bed, pretty as a picture, even with that bandage around her head, and she reached out a hand when she saw me, and she said, I swear to God, 'My hero.'" Katie rolled her eyes. "I did not," she mouthed. "Come here and let me hug you," she said. She gave a shrug to concede that much might be true. "So you see, it was way worse than a mild concussion. She was knocked clean out of her senses." When the laughter died down, Charlie continued with his tale. Kate went home the next day, and the day after that she astonished Charlie by asking him to be her date for the homecoming dance. The next few months were the happiest of his whole life, he declared. They went steady from Thanksgiving all the way through the 4th of July. "But it couldn't last past then," he said, as a mournful look fell over his face. "Not when I was headed for Vietnam and she was headed for Harvard." "Radcliffe," Kate mouthed, trying to look sad even as she corrected the record. They promised to write each other, and they did for a while. But those kinds of promises fade when life intrudes, and theirs did, each in its own way. She was caught up in her studies, he was caught up in the war.